Hey, welcome to LEAP, the League of Emergent Architectural Practitioners. I'm your host, Stephen Corliss, owner of Corliss Architecture. On this channel, we are taking a behind-the-scenes look at the workflows and procedures, processes behind architectural drawings, and documentation, design, everything good that goes with architecture. And so on this session, we are taking a look at architectural design. If you were here earlier this week, we were looking at preliminary planning, which involved, I'll pull up the site plan here, checking in on the zoning ordinance. This is a new construction home residence in Bellwood of the Chicago area. And we referenced the zoning ordinance to get the site setbacks for the side yards, rear yard, front yard, but then also made a call to the building department to verify some setbacks for fire ratings. So what you're seeing here in the kind of center line here is the fire rated setback that we're going to start with, which includes an allowance for the overhangs. And so the brief for this is a 4-bedroom home, or 3-bed with a convertible 4th bedroom, 2.5 bath, detached 2-car garage. And what we're going to look at today is just running through some design approaches. And so what I had already done, just based on the boundaries of our site setbacks, was include some walls that we extruded up here. So that's what you're seeing here in black. I had made some progress just aligning some grid lines here in Revit. And I was saying before in the last session, all you have to do really for this to start to look like an architectural floor plan is just get these grid bubbles on here, some elevation tags kind of ready and lined up, and a few dimension strings, and it's already starting to look like a floor plan. But let me show you what we were going to I've got a floor plan here that I liked, and so I'm going to pull that up on screen. Just want to make sure that we're not lagging too much on our stream here. It looks like we're okay. Let me pull up this. And here we are looking at an existing home renovation we did, but I like this floor plan because it reminds me of sort of this site layout. So I was going to start with this. And so I'm just looking at this kind of again for the first time. Seeing what I liked about it in order to kind of bring it over was the double loaded corridor, especially for the second floor. So getting the stair up to the second floor. On the first floor, the mudroom, the garage, mudroom, kitchen sequence is always a great sequence for coming in the home from a more private perspective. And then from the public perspective, coming in the front of the home, I always think it's a bit odd to have the front stair immediately at the front of the home. Maybe for certain homes that are a little more for showing off, it does become a statement piece, but for our purposes here, we are going to focus on making it a little more private. So jumping back into our Revit here, let me just get things situated. What I was looking at was, because I know this is going to move very quickly into our construction documents, is some of the details for a slab on grade foundation. And let me isolate this screen here. Okay. The slab on grade foundation is, I'll pull up this detail that I was actually even starting to just kind of refine a little bit. is it's got an isolated slab and then usually a connection into the foundation wall. And so what I was researching here, there's a couple ways to do this, is to pull this part of the foundation wall underneath another 4 inches to make this like a true 12-inch foundation wall that can host at least part of the slab. Not really structurally. I mean, there's some debates online about how this stem wall is working out in terms of supporting this slab, or if it hurts it, if it creates like a weak point for cracks because this part is supported and the part immediately afterwards is not. Whatever the case, if you are doing a pocket or a ledge for the masonry, you're going to want to probably have those equal so they can form these up with 2 boards on either side. But that it would look something like this for the slab on grade. And other ways to do it are like the thickened edge, slab edge. But for getting the slab insulated, this is like the best practice, at least right now. Our approach is like this. Okay. So you've got 2 inches of rigid insulation underneath there, coming up, isolating the slab. You've got at least 4 inches of bearing for, or this is 3.5. You need a minimum of 3 inches bearing for the exterior load-bearing wall, so that works. We've got 5.5-inch studs for 2x6s for our exterior walls. Simply for insulation purposes. And in looking at this now, you know, I know I need some more space between my masonry wall and the sheathing, so there's some details that have to be worked out here that are non-typical. But let's jump back over. The whole point of bringing that up was so that I can sort of start to get at least the foundation wall in the approximate place that it's going to be. So I think I even had a section cut like started through here just to look at what that detail is going to start to look like. And for anyone who's interested, you know, your foundation wall is going to come up at least 6 inches above grade. And then so this is where this gets a little tricky and just different from what like a traditional framed, like joist framed system would look like. You've got a little more space because you're probably going to use a 2x12 for the floor system. This, you're going to actually have the slab like even with the top of the foundation wall, or it could be set down lower. But for these purposes, it's typically level with it. So I would offset this up 6 inches so it runs into that, so it's mimicking this detail a little closer. Which means our level 1 is not going to be like a standard. It's going to be level with that 6 inches above grade. Now, if you needed to or wanted to, or if you had utilities running underneath, and you were still framing above grade on top of the slab, then obviously that would raise things up. But these are all things that you have to consider in terms of like the design, starting off the design, that have a huge trickle effect down the road. So it makes it it's very important to get these right at the onset of the project. So if we're not, if, you know, we call that good enough for now, which I think it is. Just double check here. Put my footings on here just so I can easily tell. To wall, structure, wall, footings. These are going to be at least 20 by 8. And these only need to go down to frost. Here we're in Climate Zone 5. So So we've got some semblance of like a first ground level structure here, and these are going up to the ceiling of level 2. There's some debates about, you know, if you run these walls all the way up in Revit specifically. Some people like to break their walls. If it is going all the way up, I mean, I think it's okay to let them run all the way up. It makes for like kind of a cleaner model. I know there's a lot of different ways you can break these walls down, but just for simplicity, I'll take these up to the ceiling level 2 right now, and I want to start to see what this is looking like in terms of our heights, because I know our level 1 is technically lower now. These levels that I have in here are kind of standards. We can move this level 1 down to the top of grade. Or sorry, 6 inches above grade. Let's see, I'll just make this bigger for now so we can see. Three-quarters of an inch, sure. So actually, we don't have a basement ceiling, but I think I've got a lot of things in my model that are hosted on this already, so I usually just hide that if I'm not using it. So we've got a grade difference of 6 inches. We've got our ceiling level, should be 8 feet, and then this distance between the ceiling level 1 and the level 2 has been worked out previously of other projects, and so all that is 2x12 floor joists, and so I'll just go up to the level 2 and I'll start to drop this in here. Architecture, floor. For some reason I have found it beneficial to separate out like the wood joist with the sheathing. We're at level 2 from the actual finish flooring. And so when you do this in your models, I mean, you can bring this all the way to the exterior sheathing. That's how it's going to work. And construction. And I'm really just trying to get the skeleton of our structure here to like understand the bounds before I start working my way in. I'll add a little bit of architectural dimension to this, but really this, if you missed the previous series, is for the like missing middle housing. So that looks good for now, and then we can cut our openings, but when we do that, we're going to set this down 0.75 inches, and then I'm just constantly checking these things in section here. That's a big span, so I know we needed a load-bearing wall in the middle here, or somewhere in the middle. I think I was saying that's not applicable, that's for the garage beyond. So we've got our like starting of model here. And for anyone who's kind of questioning this, you probably weren't, but maybe you are if I'm drawing your attention to it. Or I think I did mention that you only need 3 inches of bearing on there. And so when we're looking at this wall makeup, that's 4 inches. I got 1 inch for the air barrier. I got another ½ inch for the sheathing, and then this is 4.5 inches on there. That works. But the stem wall that needs to be created for that Let's see how that would look in this drawing here. So I think I already increased the size of this to 10 inches. So this is a 10-inch wall. That's going to work. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to have that return on the foundation down below. This is all going to be on compacted gravel, and you can still have this detail. So I just want, while I'm at it, I want to make sure I'm revising this detail, because I'm remembering now that I came in a total of 5.5 inches for the clearance of this, but it's actually going to be 5, so we can get our air barrier, our air layer, and then our water vapor barrier, just to come kind of smooth down the face of that sheathing line. So if we do that, then we still have we've got 5 inches for all of that makeup, and then we've got an additional 5 inches for the framing, and then this can sit on 4.5 inches of structure, which feels a bit better on our 10-inch wall. So what are we saying? This is 5. Sorry, I'm going back and forward here. Yeah, 5 and 5. So we go back to this detail and just revise this. Five inches. 5 inches. Just take this all the way down. Let's see, where were we? I'm going to adjust this. We'll pull this out so it's flush with the water vapor barrier, and then pull this out so it's flush. That's looking pretty good to me. Annotate, components, detail, break, line. I've got so many break lines in here. Probably pulled in from a number of projects when I copy in details and things like that. Okay. So, if we still are having our 2 inches of insulation, let's see where that gets us here. We don't need that slab separator because this is acting as the slab separator. And this, we said, the water barrier, it's going to be tucked underneath the slab on top of I think I was just watching the build show where they were kind of talking about the placement of this water barrier, air vapor barrier, being either on top of the insulation or below the insulation. There was a good point that was made about the concrete being poured. If it was underneath, that concrete can get under the insulation and kind of bubble up in a weird way. So this seems like a good line of separation between the different materials. And also I just think as like the condensation or any moisture that would weep up into the slab, this seems like a good like final barrier for that. It's sort of treated like the exterior is. So again, we're sort of working these details in tandem here with like this is our main structural detail, and I know it's very early to be looking at details like this, but in some cases it's really important to get everything sort of set up so you're not doing kitchen cabinetry or bathrooms and things like this along the exterior wall that get really funky if you know, have to change 2-3 inches or even 1.5 inches or an inch. It all makes a huge difference in terms of these initial details. Okay. So that's looking pretty good to me. You know, I know that, do I have a floor detail on here? I hope so. I think I use this for just to represent flooring for the time being. You know, your flooring is going to come and it's going to span over this, and that was some of the critiques of this detail that were coming out. Was like, you know, you might want to increase the depth of the stem wall so you're not having to deal with some of these details, but you know, you should have your drywall coming out and then your flooring and then your trim if you have all that, and it's kind of all aligning right there, so it's sort of a sensitive spot. But what it is doing is breaking the kind of cold thoroughfare that would be getting through the house through all the concrete formwork. So let's call that good enough for now. I think I'll just add the drywall. Type X, 5/8 inch. Okay. And I think I just want to like double check we're at 11 5/8 for that wall type, and then on here, what is this coming out to? 11 5/8. Okay, perfect. So our wall types are married up, which is good. I've got my second floor plane in there, which I set down. Did I set down? No, I set up. I need to set down 3/4 of an inch to compensate for our flooring, our hardwood flooring, and then should be 5/8 of an inch down below to compensate for, yep, gypsum drywall ceiling. And so, I mean, this is a good setup so that in case we wanted to increase or lower ceiling heights in certain areas, we can do so very easily so that these things are like hosted to these levels. But now we've got our, so we're at grade here. We need to be 42 inches to our top of our footing. So this needs to be lowered. So that's defrost. So we're ready to go. If we're at grade and we're up 6 inches, I mean, that means the exterior of the home is going to have, you know, something like a pad to step up onto before you get in. We'll get into some of those details in just a bit here. But again, I'll just make reference, share my screen so we can look back over at this. The aesthetic of this I thought was appropriate for this series of homes. sort of has an urban appeal to it. It's got the single slope shed roof for a little bit of cost savings, but also a little bit of a contemporary look. Please don't mind this lower detail there with the stonework. That was something the homeowner of this project wanted to keep. But regardless of that, floor plans I think are appropriate again. And then one thing to mention again was the bearing wall in the middle here. That's something we will need to kind of compensate for. So let's just dive in. And usually like to represent my drawings with the most detailed level, so I can just verify that all my walls are the right wall types and everything. We'll get to the garage later, but I just wanted to show you how quickly like this can come together in terms of getting a few walls up, getting a few floors in place, and then the interior comes together pretty quickly after that. So the roof, top of roof, 4 feet, unlimited view below. It's not cropped right. So again, I have all these views already set up in like my project template folders. So most of them are here, but need to just be like slightly adjusted to wherever the position of the home is. And I'm doing just plan north on this, not a true north. Or actually, I think it is true north also. So that actually worked out for us here. And again, just these notes that I have hanging out on the side are just applicable from previous like permitting processes that we've gone through that we know the reviewers want to see. So I was up here because I wanted to just throw a roof on. Roof by footprint. I know it's going to be probably a 10-inch rafter. Those are the foundations below, so we can adjust that so we actually don't need to see those. And then I think I offset everything from the boundary lines, the site property lines, 1 foot. And again, there's a lot of different ways to design. I've sort of just found it best for me to just constantly attack these from different views, angles, perceptions, because there's so many variables that happen, and if you take it too far down one path by just studying the elevations or only looking at the floor plan, there can be a lot of adjustments that change what you did and the path that you took too far. So I kind of like to bring everything up to a certain level together. So with a single slope roof, I don't know why I have a base offset here. Just don't want anything. 2/12 is the lowest you can go with an asphalt shingle roof. Not sure if I did that right. Yeah. Let's look at it in section here because it's putting my roof plane way up there. That's not necessarily where I want it. Top of roof, I definitely don't want it there. I want this roof to start at the ceiling level 2, and then I'll make an adjustment there because these, we know how these are framed. We want this to be bird's mouth cut into into these studs here. But so just so we're double checking everything, this is our 8-foot ceiling height. And so if that's the case, we know that everything above that needs to start with framing up higher. than that dimension. So if you're familiar with stud framing, the studs, they actually come longer than 8 feet so that they can compensate for this. Because so many homes are framed traditionally with 8-foot ceilings. We're going higher now typically, and we might want to do that for this home also. But if everything's kind of set up in respect of each other, it's easy enough to raise everything relative to itself. So I'm just going to use sort of a block that we have here just to confirm. So when you've got that extra 5/8 of an inch gypsum, you actually need to bring these walls up a little bit higher, and then we've got the double stud there. So this is how it would actually be framed for a rafter or ceiling joist. And we're probably going to be lofting joist. Just use a stud. So, well, our studs for the ceilings can probably be 8-inch. With our bearing there, it's no more than 15 feet, right? Yeah. So, again, all of this makes like a pretty significant difference when you're designing. And if you don't know about a lot of these things in construction, it can really affect your proportions that you are so proud of. Like this, we know now is a 2x10 rafter ceiling. This could be a 2x8, and so I would just want to make sure that we don't have any conflicting geometries here when we're pulling this down. So I'm going to take this, pull it down to the top of our stud there, and it looks like we're good. We're in the clearance. And so now I can actually set the true top of roof, at least whatever it is for now, because that's not hosting this, or at least I don't want it to host this. I want this to be free of it. That's just a signifier for the framers and for the reviewers. But what that does give me is the bottom of the roof framing there and how that's going to tie in. So if any windows are here and if we had an extended eave, we can see how it conflicts with the roof lines there. So this all works really well for us in terms of the section. Let me keep going. I know I'm going to want a load-bearing wall in there on the second floor. But so when you are doing this or designing like this, that roof plane there, you can attach the top of those walls to the underside of that roof really neatly, really easily. That's looking pretty good. We'll see if we can make an argument for the roof sloping one way or the other, but right now don't really have like a precedent or reason for it. And then we've got a couple of roof components that we can slap on there, really quickly dress it up. fascias. And what's nice also about this money saving is the gutter only has to be on the one side here. Okay. And it's already starting to take on some like dimension here. So we've got a first floor started. We've got a, I think, second floor here. There's not much to it, but it is what it is. And again, it's very quickly, it can come together where you've got at least a set of architectural plans where you can look at this design and critique it a little more universally between all of these different views. Next would be like the elevations to start to study. But before we get to that, we will start dressing up the interior, start laying that out. So there's your second floor plan. Look at us go. Roof plan, we've got at least something mocked up here. That's great. Where's this all the way out there? Since the garage is so far away, we'll do that as a separate elevation tag on this. Sometimes I try and combine them, but that's like a lot of wasted space in between there. Those are 3D tags. Something that's frustrating about Revit is these tags, wherever you have them in plan, have to stay there. And so you're kind of forced early on to come up with a good spacing off of the building. And so I always just like to do a little bit of a test run. I know I'm going to have at least like 2 line strings, dimension strings, and then at least a wall tag and then window tags, but this helps. You can do that. I don't really like when those cross over, so I like to leave a little bit of breathing room between. Those, and let's see, this looks a little far out here. So this is sort of becoming a hybrid between architectural design and our documentation, which in my mind goes hand in hand. I believe we are in the business of drafting and communication, and design, of course, comes with philosophy and psychology and everything good that comes with it. But at the end of the day, especially with the tools that are available now through AI and all this, architects have a real opportunity here to show their real purpose, which is assembling beautiful spaces and communicating how they come together. That's kind of our motto. Okay, so that's why this step is so important, because when I'm cropping these, I'm losing my elevation tags here. That just means that these need to be inboard of the crop area. And it is sometimes easier to just set these up new, I know, but I've got these in the project held over from our template, and all these views are already set up on our elevation sheets, so I'll show you what that looks like as soon as we get these sort of figured out, because we will be using that to toggle between plan and elevation to design. So I'm going to use this one for our primary residence. All right, so let's head over to one of our elevation sheets to see how that's shaping up. So for this one, I've got them enlarged so that they can fit to each. And again, these are all kind of template driven, so a lot of these elevations, like the ceilings, are already hidden in these views, so I don't have to go through and do all that each time, which is nice. Saves a lot of time, because believe it or not, clicking all these little tags takes a really long time. And then it's funny, I mean, even though as much as you develop a template, you still find things that you come across that need to be updated in the template, things that happen so quickly, like that fill region being at the level. It needs to be down a grade, and that's something that I have to do in every project when I can just go into the template and do it once. But it must happen quick enough where I haven't prioritized it, so it is what it is. So, but you can already see how these elevations are basically pre-set up. So when we start adding windows and doors, you know, we're like 80% of the way there, or whatever you want to call it. I wish this part was automated. Meaning the level tags. Like, I wish the butt ends of these would acknowledge like the most exterior facing wall or something. Because surprisingly, those are very heavy, meaning like slow to move in the model. Always takes a little bit of time. Okay, so a lot of the stuff is personal preference and like how close or far or how you're showing some of these things. I will even gray out some of these things just because like the bubbles and some of the elevations, if it's not extremely pertinent information on some of these plans. So here we go. We've got 2 of these set up. Ready to go. And again, for me, these documents are part of our design deliverables. So when we issue these, even first round of plans, we already have like elevations started and ready to go. So you can do a little bit of this off screen, but I think I know I'm going to be going through this so quickly that I just want to be able to study these as I'm developing my plans here. So this is interesting. Something to note. It's better to pull all the strings and then just unlock the one and pull the one back that's not referencing or not closer to the wall. Again, 6 inches down. This is that basement ceiling, which probably just put this on hidden element layer so that doesn't show up across the board instead of hiding it in each view. I think I hid that in the other one, but I do want to kind of reference the ceiling height in some of these. Just going to double check that these aren't cutting like it. And then this is cropped. All elevations are still showing, so we're good. Then let's just go to a floor plan also. Make sure this is showing on our sheet correctly. So this is probably a good layout. I may be able to fit the floor plan and reflected ceiling plan on the same sheets. That would be nice. And then something like the zoning plan, I could just make a reference to do a call out for the garage drawings, which would be sort of a separate series. Where are my elevations here? Let's see. Way over here. We've got a little bit of breathing room on these elevations, so don't need to pull everything in like way too tight. I can already tell by looking at it, I don't want to cram all this on one sheet. It's going to be way too hectic. I've got enough callouts and dimension strings and probably section cuts I'm going to want to feature on here. Save, always save. So are we good? No, we gotta take this down. Fix this. All of this cleanup. Again, that's why it helps to have so much of this already kind of laid out and templated in an overall template file. Okay, hide that. We're good here. We'll adjust this. Line up the levels. So we've got a couple of exterior sheets already laid out. This one needs to be in our shaded view. Smooth shadows. Show ambient. Lighting. I think we're at 20, 20, 20. Let's double check. Looks right. This one actually has true shadows. So shadows. Okay, both shadows. How are the shadows casting? 2020, and then what are we doing? In session 135, 35. Okay, that's set already. So we should get the same shading on those views, on these views. We've got our pitched roof. Got a very basic box to start. It's a good starting place. We know it fits within our zoning boundary here with the fire setbacks, which I will show on here. This is 4 feet. This is 2 feet, but I will go through here. Region, filled region. We'll just take this perimeter and we'll offset it. 1 foot. Yes, it's already done. And offset tab there. Tab, so they all go around, and then we'll give this that half tone. We'll just pick a lighter tone for this. Okay, so I do want it transparent though, because I want to see the footprint down below. So you know what, that was a bad idea. Let's just trace this and then delete we'll do extra fine dashed small. We'll take the green and we'll select the perimeter. We'll come back in here and delete that out. Okay, and then so I know that this is my distance to the roof, 5 foot setback, and I'm just putting these in for now to remind myself. To look at closer later, but that is our setbacks and offset for that. Okay, so if you've come here for design, we are now ready to start designing a little more. So let's jump into our floor plan. Close out some of these drawings that I don't need to reference right now. Floor plan, second floor, I don't need these. My section, and that's looking fine for now. I think I mentioned that I would like to vault the ceiling. We're probably going to give this some more dimensionality. We're probably going to be adding some load-bearing walls here and there. But for a basic building envelope, it's a good start. And so something I wanted to explore on this one was insetting the corner for an entry piece. I'm starting to think that would make more sense on whichever side the sloped roof is at its highest. So at this corner here, like eroding this corner for that entry pad that we were talking about. So if this is, I don't think we're going to do second floor quite yet. If this is our first floor here, this could be pulled away. It's for that garage area only. And since it's only for the garage, you can actually take that 3D bubble with it, so it's not cutting through all of our other drawings. Okay. So eroding that corner, what it would look like, how it would feel. We would be, taking up some square footage, but I think for good reason and purpose, it would give a good delineation to the entry of the home. So maybe 7'6" is a good number. I don't know. 9 feet seems incredibly deep. You'll need at least 3 feet for the door swing, 5 feet for a nice pad. So I think, if we're doing it minimal, it would be 5. That way you can get like a chair at the side of the entry. That would be nice for that 7'6" dimension. And again, these things are going to change, right? But exactly how this corner is eroded, I think, is kind of a question also. Because one of the first questions that comes into my mind is walking in and having a place to just a moment of repose, meaning taking your shoes off if you're a guest, or if this is your own home, putting things away in the closet. So is there an area for a bench, for storage, and then what are you opening onto? And then so in this sequence, you can start to break it up into zones of public, private, and traditionally that's how it was done in terms of like a greeting parlor being in the front of the house. So if you only had 2 zones, it would be sort of a front and back, divided at the center line. Question is, square footage on that 760 square feet. That's like a very small, like 15 by 20, small kitchen area, and then an eating area, and then this lounge area. That could work in terms of just dividing it by 2. We've got 55 feet, so it's not that much square footage to introduce like a third sort of zone in here, but it could work. In the previous episode, I was mentioning that I thought it would be nice to actually locate the stair in the center of the home, so it was sort of equidistant from the front entrance, which is probably going to be used by guests more than the homeowners if they're coming in from the back through the garage. If that's the case, they don't need immediate access to the stair. But it is an interesting dimensional piece to the home that, if seen by the guests, at least, it could provide some architectural interest. It doesn't need to. The other end of that is they should have no sort of tie to the stair, and the stair is a private matter that should be tucked in the back of the home along with the kitchen. Traditionally, now the kitchen is being pulled forward, so maybe it works out such that we do still have sort of a living parlor area that you walk into, and then the kitchen living area, and then the next closest thing can be the stair associated with maybe a more private dining area and the mudroom, so that when you come in, you can engage the mudroom, you can go up to the stair, or you can go to the kitchen, which means the dining actually should be associated with the kitchen and more public space. So maybe we do it in kind of 3 modes like that. sort of one of the next best things to kind of throw in here in terms of like a space saving item is the stair. So going from level 1 to level 2, it's going to have 15 steps. And we can build 2 stairs. One we know is going to be a switchback stair, so I've got 15 risers. It's always tricky, but I think we always do a lesser amount down below, 7, and then the greater amount up above so that it can eat into the ceiling space. So that works. And let's just collapse this down. So that's 1 stair. I'm just going to set my section box, cut it through here just so I can make sure it was formed correctly. Looks like it was, so that's fine. And then the next type of stair we would have would be just a straight run stair. So level 1 to level 2. Straight run, 3-foot stair. You can see, the difference already in terms of space it takes up, and if we were aligning it with a load-bearing wall, something like that, how it could be accessed, where you're accessing it from, versus a stair like this, also utilizing the structure at the top for the load-bearing landing, something like that, which again, this doesn't need to be quite in the center of the house, but if it was, that's how it would look. If it wasn't, then we would actually have this, which looks like we've got about 3'10", take out 5, just under 3'6" of hallway space. I'm reducing it by 5 inches, assuming there's going to be like a wall on either side of this. If we were to create an off-centered load-bearing wall situation there, or corridor. So, or even if it wasn't, let's see how that works out. So the span on this is now 17 feet. That's pushing it for our ceiling joist up above if we wanted to do that. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work out. Okay, well, let's just start making some moves. I think what I was thinking of in terms of this is, what if it were offset and we just created a vertical sort of channel that cut all the way through, and then we were able to utilize this front space as a closet, and then it gets you a little closer to the center, which maybe works better for navigating through the home. And then sometimes when this is done, and I know I said I didn't want the stair like right at the front, but you could align that stair with that so that you're not kind of walking into that, or if this were flipped and you kind of have the access from the kitchen or space like that. But this is a very strange space for this depth of house for the stair to be coming up on one side like that. So it doesn't really work the way I want it to. If it were a more narrow house, that could work. If it were like single loaded, so if this was like 20 feet and the stair was like a 3'6" or 4-foot stair, and then you had the remaining 15-16 feet for like a bedroom width that ran the full length, that would work. But we gotta get this double loaded here. So we need to enter like the center of the home with the stair. So that's kind of a parameter we need to follow. So, but I don't like that being out. I like it for some reason coming in here. So what I'm going to do is just copy over some walls and start to build this out. We'll offset this in 5 feet for now. And I don't want to come to the center all the way, or maybe I do. Let's see what that looks like. Save. Always save. So I do tend to work in like bigger gestures down towards the smaller. So set at 7'6". Bring that wall in to match that. That leaves us with leftover closet space of 4 feet wide. It's pretty deep, but maybe that's okay. And then let's cut some openings here. We'll throw a door just so we have some frame of reference here. Got. Let's do just a modern full glaze door. Let's get that inward. And then it would be nice to have side light associated with that. Trim on this. Fixed. And then let's cut this away. Oh, you know what? This is where it gets a little goofy in terms of letting these walls run full height. So I can create a opening in this wall for this space, and we're going to run it from grade, right, to ceiling level 1. No, maybe these offsets here. We don't need offsets. Grade to ceiling level 1 is good. Alright, let's just hold on 1 second here. Okay. So, how's that looking in our 3D view? So that's a tiny opening. I actually did want this to go all the way full height, the opening. So I think it would make sense to just break these walls in plane. Snap them together. that's like our slab grade here. These, it's going to ask to attach those to the top, which is fine. It's a pretty wide and pretty deep opening. You know what? I mean, that floor plane cutting through there already is just making me think of like a nice trellis that can be put there. And I do like that. I actually like it a lot. So let's just keep this clean. Clean up this geometry here by I always found it strange. You actually can't. Oh, well, there you can now that I drew those lines, but you can't select the corner of where some of these interior or like wall makeup pieces join. Just funky. Okay, so that was our floor plan. It's looking a little big to me, so we'll probably squeeze that down, and I think it's probably even too deep. This one I don't want offset, and then let's go into our elevation and just measure the height of that. I do want this actually with trim, though, even though it's fixed. Let's find fixed with trim. Casements, flat. Fixed with trim. That's all I got. It's okay. Put it in there and we'll adjust it. Edit type. Duplicate. 24 by 84. And I don't know if this is going to be white or black yet. I haven't really thought of the color scheme of these. I mean, they should be adaptable, so it shouldn't really make a difference. I'm just going to be really looking at the overall composition of these first and foremost. But just for consistency, we'll keep these black right now. So the glazing is clear. And I got to go in and swap each of these materials to wood trim and door black. So the trim exterior is black, but then interior it's going to stay white. See if that works out. And then can we set the trim size here? Trim width exterior 2.5. Interior 2.5. And our size was, I know this is going to change a little bit, but 84 by 2. Oh, still height, doesn't matter. Width, 2 feet. Okay. So, the reason I have to go into my elevation is because for some reason the door height and that are like slightly off. I don't know if it's trim at the base that kicks it up or the door height. Let's just double check this. I don't want this to be frosted, or yeah, maybe I do. No, I don't. This was my other modern door. I don't know why this one it's like got all goofy. Let's just keep this in here for now. Go to our elevation. Elevations. South. So this is looking kind of like some contemporary 1980s look right now with the white brick. I think I'm probably gonna want to showcase these in like a tan brick, even with the black accents. It might still look good. But I think the trellis with a large window there and then like painting that a different color is going to look nice, just for like a simple gesture, or even lining that with like a wood tone would look nice. Wood. Just going to get the overall height of this and match it, which is 7'2" and 3/4. Actually, I have to do the difference. That's what I have to do. The difference between this and this is 1 inch. So it's 7'1". Because it's adjusted, I'm gonna rename it. Side light. Okay. 7'1" should pop us up there. I'm gonna nudge it over, line it. Yeah, that's even probably too big of a side light, I think. Let's duplicate that. You might want to come back to it, but let's do an 18-incher. (1'6". Looks more appropriate. And yeah, something's just making me feel like that's too deep and too wide. I mean, maybe actually the width is okay. And I like at least that it's sort of giving us that halfway point, and we've got like large, medium, small. Medium is sort of close to this, like small. You're looking at an elevation, just the 3 different sort of planes there. We could like increase the width a little bit, but then that makes it a pretty deep coat closet next to the opening there. If I'm thinking about like sequence here, which this is what this is all truly about, we are trying to create a sense of entry. I can't stand flat faces on architectural buildings, especially residential like entries. It needs some dimension, and I think what would be really interesting is I did find in the code that we are allowed to protrude beyond the front yard setback. I think it was by 2 feet with a like bay window area. So what would be really cool in this is to kind of create like a second hierarchy of dimension on these buildings. And again, I think, we're working with a team of developers here. We're working with the city. We're wanting these structures to be very cost effective, which I think 90% of the building can be. And so it affords you the flexibility to allocate some of the funds to these curbside moments that can help retain the value of the home. And that's really what we're looking to do here, is create an architecture that was thought about, the sequence of the home, the entry of the home, the curb appeal of the home, the cost effectiveness of the home. There's a lot of factors to consider, and even in setting all this up, I hope you can see there was like deliberate intention thought about each of these steps so that we're not going to run into issues down the line in terms of needing to squeeze the building in due to fire rating issues or this or that. So that's a lot of the just kind of live thoughts that are going on here. So 5 feet is feeling sort of cavernous and deep. I think 3 feet might feel too narrow. And while we're at it, I'm just going to take this slab, since it would probably be poured continuously. I'll have to figure out like how it's actually shaped, but it would probably be poured contiguously through the exterior like that. I mean, there may be a break in it, but in terms of like its level, elevation, it's going to be level with that. So I can re-break that so that it's actually 2 different pours, you know, so we're not bridging any gaps or anything like that. But I just wanted to show, because even if this is inset, oh, I took it in 3 feet. 3 feet. This dimension is going to make it feel a lot deeper when we have this pad out here. So I do want to set like a 3-foot pad, let's say, outside, and then I'll push this wall in another foot. So you get a total of 6 feet for this pad. Not quite square, which I think is okay. It's 6 feet by, what was it, 7.5 on the interior dimensions of this pad. Get this out of the way. That'll be a step up, like I mentioned. I mean, this is really silly, too early to be doing things like this or thinking about this, but it's how I kind of work. If you had a chair outside here, let's see if there's like a small chair I have that could work. Always safe. It helps you just start to envision like what the flow of the space is and how it feels to be entering the home. Oops. I want to turn this a little bit, maybe 15 degrees. Can tuck it in the corner there. Have a little Bob Ross moment here. And you know, this can jog over, but at least we're in the clear here, so just walk up the path. Looking at it in 3D, I gotta break that and take it down, but you can start to see how that feels a lot better. And I think with a trellis that would project over the same distance as that, you're gonna have like a nice 3-dimensionality to that. We can get the address numbers either on the side here with a light accenting it. That's gonna feel really nice. So while we're at it here, we know we're going to be sort of breaking that. This is because this is at the exterior here, we don't have anything landing on it. We'll probably just have a thickened slab. So I actually just imported these. Where are we? Structure, slab edge, 8-inch foundation. That is showing it thicker, but I'll show you. I mean, that's the true pour of the thickened edge slab, and then we'll turn on the groundwork here and start to see how this is feeling. We're at grade, which is right. Got section box on, which let's turn that off for a moment. I did, in the preliminary planning, set the alleyway and sidewalk where they need to be, so those should be correct. And now for this, I'm just gonna snap this perimeter to the exterior face of our foundation wall. And that should get us a better look at like the plane, the ground plane as we're coming up to the building here. I would half-tone that just to kind of make it a little more subtle. That's starting to feel like an entry. I mean, I know it's ridiculous, or I don't even know, probably an hour and 15, 20, 30 minutes into this, and it seems like we're just toying around with an entry. But for me, at least, some of these big gestures, they really guide the rest of the building, and some of the interior stuff comes together a lot quicker for me. So what were we doing here? We were going to set those foundation walls down. My section box is huge. So we will take this. cut it. I know I'm going to need some interior perimeter walls now to host those. But pull this back for now. And I can jump into my structural framing, plan, basement, foundation. Yeah, sure, that's not going to be too helpful. Snap that to that, snap that to there. I mean, at least for now, I'll bring those walls in. Let's put a little pathway coming up. So if that's the case, I have to double check if that is allowed in the setback area there. But regardless, work sets, groundwork on. Like a lot of different ways we can do this entry sequence. Probably actually something that would be cool is to make some stepping stones. At least show it like that. You can always try. Let's change this to concrete piece. I won't do all the math now, we'll just keep it simple, but offsetting this 3 inches, making this 18-inch. Like pad. Just copy and paste that over. We'll see what we got here. Actually, now I'm remembering, it's 3.5 inches. So if they're, you always got to think about how they're building this in field. You know, when they go, you know, that's a lot of work. You tell them, I already thought it through, and you just lay down, you know, a 2x4, and that's going to create your form work for this. So no sweat. And they go, oh, okay, that makes a little more sense. Maybe now it's a little easier than I thought it was going to be. It helps bring things like this to fruition when you've actually thought it through. So that's good enough for now. We can kind of negotiate some of that stuff afterwards. And then just going to raise that up above the grade a little bit so it's prominent in our view. So here we go. This is the entrance. And maybe for good measure, I'll just throw the canopy up here. And then we'll pause for today. Or while I'm at it, I'll just go upstairs and let's see what this is looking like. Did that move in on me? No, we moved the wall out. So snap that back to our sheathing. And for good fun, I am going to take a window fixed. I don't know what's going to be here right now, so we'll just call it fixed big square pane. It might be divided into 2 casement windows in the future, but this is just sort of the vision that I'm following in my head right now. Fixed with trim. Doesn't matter, I just want it to look like the other one did. Fixed with trim. Okay, and then we had that's where lining these things up takes a little bit more focus. We got a 5'3", so I mean that's what, 63. Let's just make it 63 by 63 square for now. And that's well within the means of production. Take side light off that. It's got all of our other parameters the same. 3 inches high with might give me some warning or something. No, it didn't. Okay. And so if I'm just lining this up in the center of this space here, it's going to make me want to line up the door in the center of the space. So that's already there. So how do we do this? We find the center point of this configuration by just drawing a line all the way across, finding the center, and just taking this whole thing as a group. You know, this is already centered, so I'll just draw that line all the way down, and we're just going to take this, it's kind of like a jig, take this jig and align it like that. And I know it's already throwing my little chair off. Well, not, maybe not. It can actually still work with the side light there. Delete some of those. Now we've got something like deliberate happening there. How high was this? Let's make this 2 feet off. That's good. So 2 feet off, another 5 feet up. That's 7 feet head height. So that's totally fine. You know, if we were going to have 8-foot ceilings in there, you still have some kind of fascia condition above that. But you know, even that is starting to come together here. And if I took this window, this same window, I slapped it on the front here, like as like a protruding box, I think that could start to look nice. Very simple arrangements. Just for fun, before we sign off, I am going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to paint this, paint it a wood. Let's see what I have. I don't even know what I have. Wood. Something like that. Definitely feels modern. I think it feels sculptural. I think it can feel like a well-built masonry home with these nice architectural accents that looks, you know, not expensive, but it definitely has some design to it, and at the same time it can be affordable. So this is our starting point. Let me know what you guys think. To each their own, but got a perspective view here. We just find it. Where are we? That's how it's looking in perspective view. Not bad. Pretty nice. So I might log back on tomorrow to show where this is ending up. I'm gonna have to work on this offline for a little bit. Let's throw the ground plane in here. Where are we at? Groundwork, show. Throw some trees in there later. Let's get this above grade. I like it. I mean, it's a good start. I wanted something a little asymmetrical. We wanted to pursue the single sloping roof, so it kind of is in nature with, I mean, that offset, the offset inset is within kind of the same field condition as the single slope roof. And we can see if we want to create an architectural detail. I'm imagining more like a full height box here that sort of protrudes out, that crosses both floors, but it might be too complex. We'll see. So let me know what you think, if this was helpful in the comments. Again, these are just very transparent design sessions and just workflow sessions that are happening here. So you're getting the raw experience. Set my camera to 8, 7, 8. Raise this up. All right. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in if you did, or if you're watching this post-production or whatever it is. Hopefully it's helpful. Let me know if it's helpful. I'm just going to continue doing this just to have a record of our design processes for anybody that's interested in designing, building a custom home. There's a lot of information that are in these videos. I think, like I mentioned earlier, if you've tuned in, I kind of repeat this now just so people understand the transition of the channel from Architecture for Thought, which was more of an explorational type of channel exploring technologies, into just the real production, because from my perspective at least, I'm noticing a huge gap in the mentorship for younger generations and understanding how buildings are put together, and hopefully a lot of this information transfers just from residential design, which we do a lot of. We also do commercial build outs and some construction. So but I have a lot of experience before starting my own company working in high-rise buildings, long manufacturing buildings with very tasteful, expensive details, and so I've grown an appreciation for this level of involvement in terms of design, just holistically thinking about budget, design, philosophy and psychology of space. That's sort of our ethos at Corliss Architecture. And so if this is helpful, just seeing how an architect works and holistically understanding what an architect does that runs his own practice and is pushing for an industry that has more education in terms of how buildings are put together, feel free to continue tuning in or click the bell button, whatever it does to notify you, because I'll just be logging on randomly to do these live sessions. And thanks for tuning in if you have. Appreciate it. I'll see you soon.